Good morning and welcome to the Stahls TV Morning Show. I'm Josh Ellsworth.
And I'm Courtney.
Kubitza. Got to finish.
I think we're on a first name basis today.
I went formal first and last name. Welcome everybody watching live on Facebook and also go to webinar. We are excited for today's morning show. And if you have questions, feel free to type those in throughout. We have those feeds directly in front of us, and Joe will be helping us with the GoToWebinar questions. So today's topic is overhead. And sorry, I'm hesitating because Joe is approaching, and this never happens. You guys might actually get a glimpse of Joe on air.
Just what we wanted.
Okay, we have a microphone issue, so we're good now. Okay, so Courtney is now mic'd up, and we are certainly live.
I'm still Courtney.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about overhead, why it's important to your business. We're also going to have a double dose of Make It Monday, which I'm excited for. We couldn't pick between the two projects, so we're going to show both of them to you. And then we're also going to, of course, highlight our Look of the Week winner momentarily. But I want to start with the Make It Monday project that you guys did, I want to say a couple weeks back. And we had a request from somebody within our company that wanted to do a pop-up tent and thought it would be a good project for you guys to see how to decorate. And so we took it on and said, yeah, of course, we'll try it out, see what we can do. And so we ordered in this pop-up tent from Amazon. And I know you can get pop-up tents on Amazon, Dick's Sporting Goods. There's quite a few different places. But you can decorate those with your heat press. And so let's walk through that footage now.
So to print the tent, what we did is we actually laid the tent out and aligned the transfer with thermal tape. And then we took it over to the heat press, and we just used the same Hotronix fusion that we use here in the morning show and pressed each section, slid it over, pressed the other section, and then peeled away the carrier for the application. And you can see Jimmy and I actually using some rulers and measuring tapes to kind of lay everything out and make sure it was spaced appropriately on that large graphic. And for the secondary application, we pressed the address and the phone number on the bottom of the tent, and there were some large seams that could get into the way, so we did use the Hotronix leg and sleeve and got a little bit creative in printing it that way. It did definitely help to have two people for this application, so we were able to easily print and move it.
If you want to do a project like this, number one is I would suggest looking for a polyester-based tent that's going to be a little bit easier to handle than a nylon-based one. Also, have confidence in it. The main thing is to make sure you measure out your application area. If at all possible, tape your transfer into place using thermal tape, or stick it on if it has a sticky backing. And then you saw, you and Jimmy sort of tag team that one, having multiple people to sort of move it across the application area, or even lay it out flat across the table and then sort of slide it into your heat press, and then press. And it really doesn't matter if you overlap an area and heat it twice. The main thing you want to do is make sure that you're not missing any particular area.
Yeah, having that table and having someone else there was key to being able to print it really quickly, especially if you were doing multiples of these.
Okay. Hopefully I'm seeing some comments in there. Hopefully those are from earlier and we have good audio quality now, so I'm getting a thumbs up from Joe.
I have two microphones on now, so.
So we should have good audio quality at this point. So that was one edition of Make It Monday. If you have any questions about how to decorate pop-up tents or any specific application questions for things you want to try in your business, our Facebook group is a great place to participate. That's the Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, and we have thousands of members already on there sharing tips and advice. One of our most active members is actually the winner of our Make It Monday, or Make It Monday.
Look of the Week.
Our Look of the Week. Our Look of the Week for this week. So let's share that with you now.
Yeah, so this one comes from Nancy at Huckleberry Inc. And so Nancy often shares things on our Heat Press for Profit Facebook group, as well as on the Facebook page for Show and Tell. And this was one that I really enjoyed the story behind it. Of course, the looks are great as well, but she paired together some embroidery with glitter flake on the sweatshirts and some of the t-shirts, and then also did some screen printed transfers. And so the story behind this was that she went and presented 8 looks to a dance team offered them 2 different decoration options, so the screen printed option as well as the glitter and the embroidery, and it resulted in a $5,000 sale. And I love the idea of presenting options to your customers, but not too many options. In fact, my husband and I were having this conversation last night about the paradox of 3, where you only offer 3 choices. I'm finding that if I give my daughter more than 3 toys, she won't be able to, it's too much for her to handle. And I think we do that a lot with customers. We give them too many choices, too many decoration options, too many blank garments. And so Nancy was really successful in allowing them to narrow down what they wanted, and they were able to make a buying decision.
Yeah, and I think something else about that image for me is it's just impactful. You look like you're for real, and you're you're a well-oiled machine when you can present coordinated looks like that across different items. So I think it also adds a lot of credibility to your business when you can present to a customer in that way. Often it's not always about what am I choosing to buy today, but what am I capable of doing as a business when I'm trying to court a customer or impress them to continue to either win them for the first time or just retain their business. And so I think being able to present in that fashion adds a lot of credibility to the business. So thanks for submitting to Look of the Week. If you want to submit to Look of the Week moving forward, there's 3 ways to do that. You can email us, tv@stahls.com. You can also share it to our Stahls Show and Tell on our Facebook page. That happens every Saturday. Or you can tag us on Instagram @Stahls TV. So a lot of different ways to submit and share your ideas and what you're doing. We'd love to share those with your peers and the rest of our video viewing audience. So today, speaking of adding credibility to the business, we're going to have a conversation about overhead. And overhead is an interesting topic because it's something that a lot of small businesses, especially, I would say, don't really have a firm understanding of what is overhead, how do I calculate it, how does that go into cost, what does that really mean to my business. And so to start us off, why does overhead matter to any business?
I think it's cost, so you want to make sure it's included. And if you want to be a profitable business, you want to make sure all costs are included. And we do a lot of training classes at trade shows as well as here on Stahls TV, and we talk a lot about pricing and setting your costs, and that's one of the top questions we get from decorators on the Facebook group. We get it at live classes, and because people don't understand and they want to make sure they're making profit while still charging the right price for their job, and that comes a lot of the time into understanding your cost. Overhead is a big part of that. It's not the t-shirt, it's not the transfer, it's the indirect cost that people don't consider. The building that you're in, the staff that you have to pay to run the day-to-day business aspect, the administrative side of it. It's the utilities that you're using to be able to run your business. I mean, all of that is included into cost, and if you don't allow for that, then your pricing or your profit will be off.
Yeah, so there's 3 main factors that go in the cost to actually produce a shirt. You have your cost of materials that are part of your direct cost. That's going to be your transfer, your garment, any of those components that are actually in the finished product. You're going to have your direct labor costs, which is basically your manufacturing labor, so your labor for operating the heat press, weeding designs, whatever functions are being completed in the manufacturing of the good. And then you're going to have your overhead, your indirect costs. So those are going to be your lease, your advertising expense, your sales wages, your marketing expense, your utilities, all of those things. That list can go on and on for a business. And so typically what we find in small businesses is most of them leave out 2 major cost factors. They leave out their direct labor costs. They don't pay themselves to complete a shirt. And if they get that, which is sort of the most often one that you get next out of just your cost of materials, they miss overhead. And so it's very important to factor in overhead as part of the overall expense, because if you're operating out of your home now, that may give you sort of the opportunity to sort of weigh, is it worth it to do these things, such as move to a storefront? And so overhead is tied to a lot of big decisions for any business. I would say the most notable one that we talk about in here is people wanting to get out of the home, away from their home business where a lot of people start, and move to a retail space or maybe a commercial space where they can manufacture the goods.
Yeah, we see a lot of people wanting to kind of take that jump to a brick and mortar shop if they're doing it online or doing it out of their house. And there's a lot of benefits to that we can talk about, but there's also that idea that you're adding the cost, or you're adding all of that extra overhead, and you want to make sure if you're going to do that, that the business is going to be there and it's going to be worth taking that extra expense on, rather than just saying I can do this and now I can start to get more foot traffic. You need to make sure that's right for your customer.
Yeah, it needs to be a true business decision and not just an ego decision, put nicely. So, because when I would think about that, I would dream of having a retail storefront. I think that would be cool. It's like the endorsement, the stamp that you've made it. But I think it's how you define success. Do you define success by having that presence that people know, or do you define success by profitability? And when you start to move into a storefront or retail space, you really do need to make sure that you're going to have either that incremental sales growth, meaning what you would gain that you can't just get online or out of the home. You need to make sure that that's going to be there and do some business planning around that. Or for some businesses, you may be to that sort of breaking point where you want to retain this book of customers that you've built up from home, and getting a physical location is going to help in your not only growth, but your retention plans of those clients. So those are some big things. So first off, let's talk about sort of the benefits and disadvantages of being online or being just online/home business. What do you see as some of the risks with being an online or at-home business?
The biggest challenge, I think, with being online or home business for sure is going to be the credibility. So a lot of people tend to think that you're more of maybe a credible or a legit business to buy from if you have a storefront, an actual retail location where I can go and I can buy product, because there's obviously always concern with being able to purchase products online or not being able to feel or touch them, or just feeling like maybe they're just not as big of a company, and then there may be issues with payment or shipping or product or something if it's not as credible.
Okay, and then what are some of the benefits of being a home business or online? I mean, obviously there's a reduction in overhead. It's not as expensive to operate your business, and that should translate into what? A price savings, a cost savings. So really, I hear from a lot of our larger customers that have shops that heat printing's so easy to get into that the guy down the street's always cutting my price, and things are very price competitive. But as a home business or an online-only business out of the home, you should have a lot leaner model. You shouldn't have the same expense that goes in to making a garment per se from an overhead perspective, to where you get the benefit of being able to offer a lower price. Now, on the other side, maybe you don't have the efficiency that a large commercial decorator would have either, so sometimes there's a balance to that cost factor. But when you're online or at home only, you definitely should have a reduced cost and be able to sell at a slightly lower price than somebody that has to support a physical location. Now, let's talk about those physical locations of brick and mortar shops. Obviously, there's some considerations there that go beyond just the image and having a place to meet with customer. What are some of the drawbacks outside of the lease payment that you see of having a retail space?
Of having a retail space, for me, a lot of the times it's a set hours. So you have to have somebody there staffing hours from, let's say if I'm open from 10 to 8, then I've got to have somebody there, versus at my home business where I'm not worried about having to hire and train and staff people for those locations and making sure I'm open. So that's one of the big challenges for sure. A few other things that come to mind for me is just really the cost. It's just adding in that extra expense of running a business.
Yeah, it adds additional pressure to the business for sure, but I know that there's success story after success story as, wow, when I bought this space, when I got this space, this is when my business really took off. But on the other side, I will say I've had equal conversations, not necessarily always in the decorate apparel industry, but in other industries. When I made this commitment and I got this space, I didn't realize the way that wages and having to have steady staff and salary and that lease payment would eat away at profitability. And you know what? It's just not really worth it, and it's put a real strain on my business. So it can go either way. That's why it's important to have a well thought out plan and really spend some time finding the right location, because often I've seen where people are really just anxious to get out of the home and to get that space because now they have the money and they want to get the space, but having the right location is absolutely key. What tips could you give a decorator about even beginning to start the process of exploring what is a right location?
I think you want something with high foot traffic for sure, because that's the biggest benefit of being able to move to a brick and mortar shop is being able to get foot traffic, increase your brand a little bit, and get people to know your business is there and that you do custom apparel or that you do decorated apparel in that way. And so I think definitely in a retail location, maybe a shopping outlet or a mall or something, that you're going to be able to get increased foot traffic. You don't want to be at a warehouse in a rural area because you're not going to get the benefit. That's going to be more of maybe if you just need a space to be able to produce to sell online, then maybe you're going to go to a large warehouse that's in a bit more inexpensive area that's not going to get foot traffic. But if the point is to make this a marketing expense and to get the foot traffic from it, then you're going to want to be somewhere that gets that.
Yeah, what are the goals, number one, but let's say the goals are to reach more customers and leveraging that foot traffic. I think it's defining who is your customer and what is the right type of foot traffic, because I think, there are some businesses that while there's a lot of foot traffic in, let's just say a shopping mall, for instance, it may not be your customer. It may not be the right customer type for where you're looking to grow. So I think first having a clear, solid understanding of who is your customer or who is the new customer that you're going to target in your business plan, and then making sure that customer growth area is aligned with the selection of the space and where you want to be. And of course that should be aligned with your sales strategy, your product strategy, your marketing messaging. All of those things work together, and it starts with a sound business plan and an understanding of who is your customer today and who do you want that to be. So for those shops that aren't quite ready to make the jump to a retail space, or maybe want to dip their toe in the water, there's sort of a trend that's been going on for a couple years now with the concept of a pop-up shop. Now, how can an apparel decorator sort of make use of that concept and try things out?
We're definitely in an interesting time right now, I think, with retail versus online and the way people are selling products. And so we're starting to see a lot of the blend of the two. And so a lot of things that apparel shops for sure are doing, whether they're large apparel brands, custom apparel brands, is that they're doing pop-up shops, which are just temporary shops that pop up for a couple months. It may be to promote a new product line. It may be to promote a new brand. We even see it in the music industry where they're popping up to promote maybe a new album or something for a couple of months and using it as a marketing expense. But the idea is you would find a place like a kiosk or a small location that allows you to have a month-to-month or a minimum month of maybe 3 months in the lease, so you're not signing a 3 or 5 year deal and committing to that, but it allows you to promote your brand by showing different types of apparel items, maybe sell some product very quickly. Maybe you're going to sell 10 different designs or different t-shirts or something in that aspect, and it really lets you kind of dabble and decide if maybe signing a larger lease and really moving into a brick and mortar shop is it for you.
Yeah, and while you may not define this as a formal pop-up shop as you see like popping up in big cities or whatever, the idea of just following and having sort of at location printing, whether that's a flea market, a tournament, anywhere your customer may be, where you can either pull a trailer behind or set up a temporary booth structure and be able to sell, is a great sort of first experience at retail. Is there demand for my products with this customer type? And often people find that those 3 days that they're at a tournament, or those 5 days that they're doing this sort of fair or whatever it may be, is so profitable that they don't need to have the expense of a monthly lease payment. They can hit in these little pockets at different times of the year and have the best of both worlds.
And I think it helps also with the credibility. So if the one reason that you want to move to a brick and mortar shop is because you're saying that I work with these schools or I work with these companies that don't think I'm credible because I'm doing this out of my house, then I think getting your brand out there at some of these events and letting them see what you can do really helps to build that credibility.
Good. So a lot of different considerations when it comes to what to do as it relates to a brick and mortar retail space and as that relates to overhead. Now, some of the other things that go into overhead are marketing expenses and sales wages and utilities. Really, utilities are tied to a physical space. So really, I'd say the biggest other spend is sales wages and marketing expense. So when you're considering how do I grow sales, one viable way to do that is by hiring sales folks or upping your marketing budget. But those all contribute as well, right?
Yeah, they definitely do, and that'll vary depending on what structure you go with, if it's going to be an online business versus a brick and mortar. But you could even consider if the retail space is going to become more of a foot traffic thing where you don't have the sales or the marketing expense, then it may weigh out the differences between what you're paying to be an online company and doing more online marketing.
Good. So we'll plan to spend some more time over the coming weeks and months here relative to growing sales and marketing as a build out of your overall business. Today we wanted to focus specifically on the retail space and jumping to a physical location. What sorts of questions do we have coming in right now, Joe? Are you able to blow that up a little larger so I can see it? Can't read that far away.
There is a question going back to the tent. They would like to know what was the vinyl that was used for the tent.
The particular vinyl that was used for that tent was called SuperTech Sublastop, which is actually a print cut material that we selected for its adhesive properties. But I feel very confident recommending thermofilm, which is a basic material for tent applications.
And also the guidelines that you just went over for overhead and how to calculate, will those be posted any place that they can download and get a quick reference?
Sure. I know if you go to stahlstv.com, there's a ton of video content on calculating costs, but just another quick review. Basically, going into the cost factor for any job, you have your direct costs, that's your manufacturing labor. Then you have your cost of materials that are going to be added to that. Typically that's the shirt and the transfer, and then you'll have your indirect expense or overhead, and that would cover everything we're talking about here with indirect labor such as marketing and sales expense, as well as your lease, utilities, etc. We do have lots of video content on that, and actually in our cost calculation class we teach you how to apply overhead as a percentage to each sale, so you actually capture that as a percentage of each sale. And we'll make sure we link that particular video here in the Facebook feed. And then also just search for calculating costs on Stahls TV and you'll come up with that video. All right.
And also, do you find that if your price is cheaper than your competitors, do you think that the customers feel that your product might be inferior?
If your price is, do you want to take that one? I have my own opinions, but if your price is cheaper than your competitors, will the customer think that your product's inferior? It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think they think the product is inferior if your pricing is less expensive. I think you can speak a lot to the quality from being able to show, if it's an online business, being able to show reviews from previous customers that have bought the product. That'll help to build out the pricing difference and let them see that maybe you're just not charging as much for that product. I don't think it's seen as something inferior unless the quality of maybe the image or the quality of the reviews or something leads to that conclusion.
Yeah, it's a perceived value issue, really. You're saying that the customer may perceive your product to be of less value because of the price. And so I think, number one, if they're having that perception, increase your price if that's the only thing, because you can make more money that way. You don't have to, I wouldn't recommend actually that you look to win on price, because typically that model falls short at some point along the road. I would recommend that you price your product somewhere around market pricing and try to win in other areas such as delivery, customer service, quality, all areas. So I would just consider how you're presenting that to make sure they're not perceiving that it's a lesser product. All right, I think we're good on questions over there. Let's take a look over at Facebook. Why do my Stahls vinyl designs wrinkle so bad, and what's the best way to iron them away? So I think that you shouldn't be having wrinkling on Stahls vinyl designs unless you're using a very thin product such as Superfilm on a very, let's say, high cotton content garment that maybe is shrinking like a fleece. So if it's anything beyond that, Anthony will message you offline and try to address that question, but you shouldn't have wrinkling across the designs unless it's too thin of a material on a cotton that's shrinking, or maybe it's a cotton off the retail shelf that's not designed to be decorated, that's not pre-shrunk, something like that. So we'll dive deeper on that offline. What else do we have? Andrea asks, I had to go to a warehouse for production. Our town is cutting down on home-based businesses that have heat presses. Okay, I think that's more of a comment than a question. Thanks for that. Do we have any other questions here on Facebook that you want to scroll down through? All right, I think we're in pretty good shape. So I appreciate you tuning in for that portion of the conversation. I know you want to show us our latest Project Press It subscription box and another version of Make It Monday, right?
Yes, Make It Monday number 2. All right, and so for today's Make It Monday, we're going to be, or Make It Monday Part 2, we're going to be showing you how to make the Project Press It subscription box from the month of July. And so the Project Press It subscription box is a monthly box that's for different markets. It's basically a sales idea for you to go out and reach new customers or to show them new samples or come up with new designs. And so we provide the garment, the transfer, and a sales guide to you to be able to do that, along with some marketing resources to help you kind of promote the product offering. And so the box in July, for those of you that received it a couple months ago, it's actually promoting teams, which is a perfect time of year right now. And so we sent it out in July in a seasonal time for you to dive into the team market. It included a youth shirt because we see a lot of team sports doing anything from youth all the way up to adult sizes. So we went with a youth size shirt. And this is a shirt from Sanmar that kind of blends together a modern and edgy look. And so it gets some textured gray and black. This is a lot of what we're seeing from large sportswear brands. And so when we started thinking about the idea behind the July box, we wanted something that was really going to be trendy with what we're seeing in the retail market, because we know we see that trend all the way down to the wholesale market as well. And so I'm going to load this youth shirt. It's a 100% polyester performance shirt, so again, it's moisture wicking, onto my heat press platen here. And I'll just preheat it to get some of the moisture and wrinkles out, also adjust my pressure if needed. So I'm going to take that and increase it just a little bit to a medium pressure for my transfer. And then for the application on the front of the shirt, we mixed together two different products. Both of these products are going to apply at a low temperature of 280 degrees, which is ideal for moisture wicking performance fabrics to avoid scorching. So we've got a clear product here that's actually called SuperTech Clear. What's interesting about this product is the material that you see that looks completely see-through is actually the product that's still going to apply to the shirt. It has a frosted carrier. And then we're going to align the Premium Plus on the side of it as well. We wanted to go with something that was a little bit more unique in the application of the design. So we're actually going to take this down the side of the shirt rather than straight down the center for something a bit more unique. Once I have these two lined up next to each other, making sure the carriers aren't directly overlapping, you can go ahead and cover with a cover sheet and then press for the recommended application. Both of these products are going to apply at 10 seconds at 280 degrees and a medium pressure. So again, that lower temperature, lower dwell time helps to avoid scorching. And then the clear product is going to be a cool peel, but one of the neat things about this product is it actually creates a unique effect where it takes on the shirt color and actually just puts a clear design over it that's a little bit more matted and a little bit more muted. And so on dark colored fabrics, something like a black or a charcoal or a navy, it makes a unique finish. I'm going to go ahead and peel back my Premium Plus carrier here for my personalization. When you're stocking blanks for the fan apparel for fall, one thing to keep in mind, or for warm-ups, is to start with a blank that's maybe a gray or a charcoal, and then use that as a blank canvas for all of your decorated apparel. This is actually really popular for creating some team looks for schools where they're taking a lot of these charcoal bases and then adding pops of color onto the design. And so you can kind of see how it's created that unique placement there with the Spartan head on the SuperTech Clear Matte design. And then I'm going to go ahead and just flip the shirt over and add one more placement in location, because as we add more placements, more areas for personalization, it creates a more unique garment and gives you more options for personalization. So I'm just going to take that same school color in the Kelly green. We've created another custom piece of artwork. All of the clip art used in this box is actually from Great Dane Graphics. And so it's all part of the subscription program there. If you're selling to schools or any other market, you can get a lot of unique clip art options there and then personalize them for your school like we've done here for the Spartans. So again, this product was just another Premium Plus. Apply it for 10 seconds at that 280 degree application. It's a warm peel, so I'll give it a couple seconds to peel back there. I'm always a little impatient. And then once I peel this back, I'll have a completed design there.
Now, because I know people are going to have this question, as you start to lift that corner and it lifted a little bit. I know you went to the other corner to peel it, but we should probably hit that again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you notice a little bit of peeling when you peel a carrier, if you start too soon, like I've done here, I can easily just recover it, press it back down for another 5 to 10 seconds, and complete that application. You could even leave the carrier on there as well if you were worried about it pulling any other part of the design off when you had lifted it. So a great sample there, just another example of what you can get from the Project Press It box. Just creates a unique finish with that Spartan head that a lot of decorators love, and create something it's a little bit trendy like what you're seeing in the retail. So that was this Make It Monday. I'll head back to the table with Josh and we'll take any other questions that we've missed.
Yeah, as you're heading back over here, just the Project Press It subscription box. Joe, if we can flash that across the bottom one additional time here. If you're interested in this, and we're getting some nice feedback on it, Shannon said she loved her July box. Thanks for the feedback. You can go to stahlstv.com/subscribe. The price is $24.99 a month as of right now. Okay, if you commit to the year, it goes down to $19.99 per month. I do want to say that this is something that's been wildly successful for us. I mean, of course, there's always feedback on other sides, and we've heard your feedback. Unfortunately, we can't do anything size specific to your box. We get the benefit of ordering and packing these in bulk in order to keep the cost down. I know you like to wear your samples, but we have made this in a way so it's supposed to be a sales sample that you take out and show when you're meeting with somebody, or that you show in your shop if you have one. If at some point in the future we can go to size specific for the individual boxes, we'll try to get there, but not anytime soon. I know that. And then we try to show different markets. So I know you may serve one particular niche, one particular customer type. We're trying to broaden your customer base. So you actually get a sales guide with each box, correct?
Correct, yeah. And so it kind of walks you through how to find customers in that market, maybe a unique way to sell to them. We've done everything from event printing to fundraising to local sales samples. So a good range.
Yeah, and actually in the box you get the blank garment, you get the ready to apply transfer pieces. In this case, the clear was our Super Tech Clear Matte design, and we had the green that was our Premium Plus material to apply down. Also, you get a nice sort of printout sales guide in there, and you get a link where you can go online and download marketing assets and photography that you can share out on your Facebook page to try to drum up business in this particular market vertical. So we plan to continue that on. We thank you for those that have subscribed, or those that even have tried it and canceled. You can opt out at any time if you go on the month-to-month package, so no harm other than $24.99 in trying it at this point. All right, any other questions coming in here? I think I answered Miranda's on the clear vinyl. It was Super Tech Clear Matte. There are clip art pieces, and then we just outlined, Aaron, what was in the box. Anything else coming in on GoToWebinar?
There was a question as to whether or not Andrea would be willing to share her location as to where they're putting the restrictions on the home business, just so other people can be aware of it in the community as well.
Sure. So Andrew, if you're still watching on Facebook Live, if you can share your location where the restriction on home businesses is, we'd be interested in that feedback to share with the rest of our viewers. Any other questions coming in? Okay, so we'll do our best to research that topic a little more in depth and share it next week on the morning show to understand if that's something that's happening nationally or just in one particular location. I don't see anybody chiming in right now to respond to that. What's exciting for next week? Do you know yet?
Next week, yeah. Next week is actually Labor Day, so we're going to be taking a week off. But then following, you and Jimmy will be back to talk a little bit about some sales and marketing around town.
Okay, excellent. We thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Stahls TV Morning Show, and we hope to see you here in a couple weeks.